Maybe you thought we were finished talking about the Georgia players that broke the combine, but
Are there no more players that broke the combine?
no, there are.
Oh,
In fact, one could argue the player that broke the combine the most is who we're going to get to in the very first segment of today's episode. Talking more combine, more Georgia Bulldogs who are going to make themselves a lot of money today on the Locked On Bulldogs podcast.
You are Locked On Bulldogs, your daily podcast on the Georgia Bulldogs. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
welcome back, Locked On Bulldogs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Daniel, today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. FanDuel, more on them in a moment.
Let's talk more about them in a moment.
We will, but first we want to get down to two more dogs that did absolutely nothing but earn themselves more coin, exclamation points all over the place, broke so many people's preconception of what they are, who they are, including ours, and continue the excellence list of UGA athletics at the Combine. And let's start with Kelee Ringo. Daniel,
let's do that.
I'm going to do something. We've much maligned Kelee on this podcast for times in which he disappears because we know his ceiling is otherworldly. We know what this guy's capable of. Wide receivers at the Combine have come out and said the toughest challenge to them was, in fact, Kelee Ringo. I said he was the best man that I faced all year in the toughest conference of college football.
Yeah.
Kelee Ringo, 6'2", 210, 31 and a quarter arm length, hand 8.5. This guy ran a 40-yard dash. Daniel,
Okay.
I'm gonna let you know this right now ahead of time.
Tell me.
This
Tell
is
me in
alarming.
advance.
You should brace yourself.
Okay. I'm sorry. Yep.
Okay, he's braced. He ran a 4.36 40 at 6'2", 210. Now, for reference, I am 6 foot, 215 pounds. That is not, and it's not healthy weight like Kelee put on. Okay,
How do you carry it? Because I've seen how he carries it.
not like that.
No, I don't. I think
3.6, Daniel.
he's the athleticism on Kelee Ringo is off the charts. He's got size and length for a corner. He's got everything that NFL scouts look for,
Literally everything.
to be honest. And then he came out and ran that 40 time. Clint, you compare that 40 time to the elite wide receivers in the NFL right now.
Now, really quick, who are some of those wide receivers, Daniel?
I mean, name them. I don't care. Who do you want to talk about? Because 4.36 compares favorably or is right in line with all of them. Like all of the elite wide receivers in the NFL. And you're talking about a guy that's got the size at 6'2", he's got the wingspan, and now he runs like that.
I'm gonna list for you all the wide receivers in this current Combine, Daniel, that beat him. Trey Palmer, Nebraska, 4.33.
You were going to list all of them.
I did.
Okay. Well, that's not a lot.
No, it's not.
No.
Let me go back to last year, and there are only 5 wide receivers. None of them I could name to you that have made any impact in the league so far. I'll go back to 2020, and I'll list all of them. Henry Ruggs.
Okay. So we're talking about, like, just for some perspective, Devontae Smith ran a 4.48. 4.36 for Kelee. Devontae Smith ran a 4.48. Jamar Chase ran a 4.34. 4.36 for Kelee Ringo. Jamar Chase, same speed, cannot pull away
No.
from Kelee Ringo.
No.
Cannot run by him.
Nope.
Kelee Ringo has made himself a really good chunk of money.
He is now going in top 15.
He was always going to be a first rounder.
Yep.
But a lot of mocks already had him in the top 15. Some mocks did not.
Solidified that.
This, I think, solidifies that. He's going to be a top half of the first round type of corner. Don't know if he'll be the first corner off the board, but he will be in the top 2 corners off the board. Listen, we had our beefs with Kelee Ringo in the past. I played the formal apology music as you were talking earlier because I thought that you were going to break right out into a formal apology.
I was
but
close.
Listen, if Kelee puts it together, then he's a cheat code at the cornerback position.
These other corners that are doing this at the combine, that are running 4.2, 4.3s, are 5'10", 5'11", 180, 185,
That's what I'm
190.
trying to say. You don't get size like this and speed like this.
No.
It's not found. Like these, you go to the receivers that have been faster than him at the combine, it's guys like Rondale Moore, Clint. It's guys like Elijah Moore. Like it's tiny little slot receivers. When you are talking about a big physical outside wide receiver, Kelee Ringo's faster than all of them.
Yes, sir.
And he's got that same size to back it up. It's quite a thing.
It's something else. Hey, we're going to come back after this, but first one is about FanDuel. FanDuel right now, midway through the NBA season is happening right now on FanDuel, which is fantastic. FanDuel, the official sports book of Locked On Bulldogs, Locked On Podcast everywhere, and the number one sports book in America. They're fast, they're reliable, they are great. And right now you can get the NBA action as well as March Madness actions. And with a no sweat first bet, if your first bet doesn't get, for new users, doesn't pay out, you get up to $1,000 in bonus bets. That's bonus bets on top if your first bet does not cash as a new user over on FanDuel.com/locked on. It is great, easy, reliable use. Daniel, I love going over there.
Yeah.
Anytime we have a segment that we're talking about point spreads or anything about parlays or any over-unders, FanDuel is the place that we get our numbers from. So when we do March Madness picks and when we come up with 4 teams that we think has the best shot of winning all them marbles.
Yes, that's right.
FanDuel.com/locked on is the place you need to go. The official sports book of NBA. Make every moment matter more with FanDuel.
Speaking of college basketball, Clint, I assume you're coming down tonight to come with me to Bridgestone Arena to go see the Dawgs play in the NCC tournament. I'll be there. I'll be in the building.
So the combine has been continuing and is now concluded, and another player for Georgia that showed out and basically put his hand on top of the head of all the other small children and said, "Oh, that's nice.
That's cute.
That's cute." Big O Darnell Washington went out to Indianapolis, and he did things, Daniel. And I don't mind saying this. We've watched a lot of football.
More than most.
A lot of
Our
hours.
wives will attest. We've seen more than most.
Don't let that thread lie.
Yeah.
Let the thread lie. I have not seen anybody like Big O in my life.
Has there ever been a person, and you just answered it, has there ever been a person that looked like was a more sure thing to show out at the NFL Combine? I mean, just look at him. Just look at him. But then he runs, and then he jumps, and then he catches the ball.
And then he
runs routes.
And then he takes, look, he came in 6'7", 264, 265. Arm span 34 3/8. I think that's the largest wingspan they've ever recorded at the NFL Combine. His hands are 11 inches, which is insane. His 40-yard dash, 4.64.
At 6'7". You just don't see it.
You don't see it. Vertical jump, 31 inches. He had The 20-yard shuttle, 4.01, 21 on the bench. And the most impressive thing to me, Daniel, of all the stuff, we saw him run, and he ran like a gazelle. We saw him catch passes, and it was immaculate. That one-hander that he had on that sideline.
It was real, and it was spectacular, Clint.
But, Daniel, I have never in my life
Here we go.
had a coach mid-drill at a combine go 3 octaves higher in his pitch of his voice when he congratulated a potential NFL player on how well he blocked that sled.
That man forgot where he was. He literally blacked out and thought he was just watching somebody at two-a-days again, back when he was a high school coach. He didn't care about the NFL Combine. He didn't care about his job. He didn't care about the microphones or the cameras. He just looked at Darnell Washington and said, I want to see more of you hitting that sled. And you know what, Clint? We all do.
We all do.
We all do. There's not a tight end at the Combine who makes catches like Darnell made, and yet catching the football is not the thing that they do best. There's not...
Hold on. I need people to hear that again, because I saw him catch passes in one hand and run routes, and it was pristine.
Gazelle-like speed, you said.
I did.
Hurdling people running down the sidelines. Shedding blocks shedding tackles like they don't even exist.
But that's not the best thing
But that's not what the man does best. He's a first-round draft pick as a third tackle on your roster. And that is, if it were illegal for the tight end to run routes and catch the ball, Darnell Washington would still be a first-round draft pick.
He should have to declare as an eligible receiver
he ought to
on
have
every
to change
play.
numbers. They ought to have to put one of those stretchy jerseys over the
green
top
ones.
of him and say, we know that this man is bigger than the right tackle he's standing next to, but he's going to go out and run a route, and
it's legal for him to do that. No, it's fine. It's
you
well within our limits.
little guy are going to have to try to defend him when he does that. Again, the tight end class is deep, and the tight ends in this class are very talented, right? The kid from Utah, very talented.
The kid from Old Dominion showed out at the Combine.
There's
too.
a lot
I'm
of
not
good.
kidding you.
There's a lot of good tight ends in this class, but there are no Darnell Washingtons. There are none.
He's one of one.
And if you're looking for a tight end, you might find a better receiver. You might not, but you might find a better receiver of the
That kid from Iowa, Laporte, he's pretty dang good.
He was the second best wide receiver at tight end on our team last year, so there are players who are better than him at catching the football. But there are no players at any level, at any position, who are better blockers in space than Darnell Washington. And so if it's a priority to you to get your very fast wide receivers, room to run, then maybe you want to consider taking a guy like Darnell Washington. To me, it's the biggest no-brainer of this draft. He is a can't-miss prospect.
You know when they do that stack thing where they put a wide receiver and 2 wide receivers out wide in a formation, and they stack them, and then they do that little, hey, look at me, quick little dart it out there, and then it's a little one-on-one.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay, you're going to tell me Big O's out there, and he's on the line, and then somebody's behind him. You do a little quick toss out there, and Darnell has to demolish his guy, and all you got to do is run past to the outside. His wingspan is going to take both of them.
It doesn't even matter. He picks up the first guy, Jalen Carter style, and holds him like a trophy and runs down the field and then blocks the second guy. That's what he does.
It's holding.
Tell
him that.
I dare you to call it.
I won't.
Dare you to look him in the eye and throw the flag.
I won't. No. We're going to come back after this and talk more Combine right now.
Clint, what does it all mean for the university. There's just so much. Let's get
Am I looking into a
philosophical.
candle right now?
Let's get philosophical.
Okay.
Stare
Before we do
into
so,
the fire.
199bonfire.com/store/the 199. Get over there right now.
You love to see it.
You do.
Shipping times down on the 199, by the way, on the 199 store. Things are
moving.
Things are moving out a little quicker.
They are.
What does it all mean for the university? This is now 2 years in a row. Georgia obviously broke records last year, the NFL draft. Georgia does not look to be slowing down when it comes to the NFL talent pool.
No.
This, to borrow a phrase, if I may, was a bit of a rebuilding year talent-wise in terms of NFL talent. This was meant to be a bit more of a down year.
Look, we didn't have the composite best roster like Alabama did, so we were, of course, rebuilding. They had already piled up all the best roster that you could ever have. We did not.
And yet here we are, little old Georgia.
Just
people thought we were going to go 5-7. Clint.
I mean,
we do more with less at Georgia. That's the thing that's
lobster and
important to take
steak
away.
going on over at Georgia.
What does it mean, big picture, for the program? Should Georgia fans care about things like the NFL Combine? Should they care about things like the NFL Draft? What do you say to the Georgia fan who's like, listen, once they leave, it doesn't really matter what they do. I am a Georgia fan. I'm not an NFL fan. Whatever.
I'm just going to list off what we've talked about this week. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to try to get you in the mindset of, you name a recruit in the nation who is not covered in what I'm about to say.
Okay.
A former walk-on who led us to national championship, who was a developmental project at best.
A laughable sideshow.
Mascot.
At worst. A mascot. A glorified mascot at worst.
Is showing up with better deep balls than CJ Stroud.
Might get drafted on day 2 of the NFL draft. Okay. A 0-star prospect.
Okay. A 5-star prospect gets injured, stays with the team, gets strengthened, conditioned in Athens for the Combine. Recovered in Athens for the Combine with the team. Then shows
in Los
out
Angeles for the national championship.
Then shows out and is going to be round 1 material.
Vaults himself into the first round.
A cornerback who made people go, wow. A tight end who was a 4-star, not a 5-star, was a less receiver on his team, comes out and makes people say, oh my goodness.
A tight end who was barely targeted on his college team.
The one knock that the NFL has against him, athleticism off the charts, measurable production is down.
Production's down. Yeah, well, he's still going to go in the first round. Come to Georgia, catch single-digit touchdown passes in your career, and go in the first round of the draft.
So you have talented players getting vaulted up. You have no talented players getting vaulted up. You have more draft choices. You have heads turning. The talk of the town is Georgia. Talk of the town in DB groups, Georgia. Talk of the town in pass catchers, Georgia. Talk of the town on quarterbacks, Georgia. Talk of the town on offensive linemen, Georgia. Talk of the town on defensive linemen, Georgia. We are on everyone's lips. Now, you tell me, Georgia fan, if you're a kid in America right now whose lifelong dream is to continue on the excellent play of footballing, that he can go play a game and get paid as an adult, why would that be important?
It's an important thing for Georgia fans. I think most Georgia fans do realize this, but it's an important thing for Georgia fans to realize is that Stetson Bennett's dream was to be the starting quarterback for the Georgia Bulldogs.
He accomplished that.
And he accomplished that. He won us the national championship twice. It feels better to be back-to-back national champions, Clint, than it does to not be back-to-back national champions. I'm not sure.
That's interesting.
I'm not sure what other fan base in America needs to hear that.
Well,
oh, wait, it's all of them since none of them are back-to-back national champions. But the vast majority of these kids, 1980 was a time that we also won the national championship.
Oh, sorry.
The vast majority of these kids that Georgia's recruiting, and I'm talking about all of them that aren't named Stetson Bennett, Their dream is not to play at Georgia. Their dream's to play in the league. Their dream's to play on Sundays in the NFL.
Their dream is to walk out and hand the keys to a Mercedes to their mom.
There's a reason why the Super Bowl is the most watched American sporting event that there is. There's a reason why the NFL regular season games regularly are more viewed than NBA playoff games. There's a reason why the NFL is so wildly popular. This is the dream for these kids. And so does it matter what they do in terms of, like, do we have to be Alabama fans who are living in the past and living on the success of guys like Derrick Henry because we haven't been relevant in college football except for the Mickey Mouse year in quite some time? No, we don't have to be those people. We don't have to.
What about their current running back who says that Georgia Tech and Alabama had about the same developmental program?
And that he credits most of his success to Tashard Choice and the University of Georgia Tech.
That was the worst look all week, if I could be totally honest.
No, Bryce Young in heels was the worst look all week, but
the man had foam this high.
The man wore high heels to the combine and then measured at 5'10" and 1/8 of an inch.
That 1/8, I think that's the most disrespectful.
It was there intentionally. They were like, well, he actually measured 5'10", but we're gonna say 5'10" and an eighth to make him seem shorter.
Yeah, that's exactly what it does. It makes him seem shorter.
It matters because the future of Georgia is not in assistant coaches. The future of Georgia is not in SEC scheduling and common opponent and, regular opponents and which three teams are we going to play and all of this kind of nonsense. The future of Georgia is in what players decide to come to the school.
That's the one.
And the guy that is in charge of that, his name is Kirby Smart, and he's going to go to the NFL draft this year just like he did last year. And do you think that Marvin Jones Jr. and that whole crop of Bear Alexander and that whole crop of Jalen Walker and that whole crop of talent, do you think that they heard anything, learned anything about Devontae Wyatt and Lewis Seen and Jordan Davis and Nakobe Dean and the whole group of dogs that got drafted? This draft will pay dividends for years to come for the University of Georgia.
Let's Jalen Carter, Kelee Ringo, Nolan Smith, Broderick Jones.
Yeah, these are locks for the first round.
4 locks in the first round. For the first round. Darnell Washington
very well could get himself into that first round. I'm sorry, how many first rounders did we have last year, Clint? We had 5 first rounders last year.
Gosh, it's good.
How many first rounders might we have this year? We might just have 1/6 of the first round for 2 years in a row.
10 of the last
60 people to be drafted in the first round will be from the University of Georgia.
That's stupid. That's stupid.
It's foolishness.
This has been Locked On Bulldogs, part of Locked On Podcast Network. Come back tomorrow when we talk more dogs with you. We will see y'all then.
See ya.